Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Stickle. I'm also joined by my colleagues Jim Patterson and Paul Estabrooks. Jim and Paul will be today's presenters and will discuss the topic of homogeneous or hybrid, uniting agile and traditional project management in one environment. I hope that today's presentation grants you some insight into the world of project and portfolio management and gets you excited for the new developments happening within the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again. I will now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thanks, Robert. Welcome, everybody. We're pleased to bring this topic to you today in our weekly webinar series. It's something that's, I think, timely and relevant and something many organizations are facing today. And we'll talk about some of the landscape that's driving that, as well as some of the solutions that we have to address those. I'll give you some of those concepts, and then Paul Estabrooks will give you a demonstration of these things in action. So let's proceed. Just a little bit about why we're giving this information. We are in the business of project and portfolio management for our clients, both with solutions and services. We're consistently recognized as a leader in this topic. We've been multiple times and just recently again named Microsoft's Project and Portfolio Management Partner of the Year, as well as we're certified in Scaled Agile by Scaled Agile Inc., meaning we can help people with expertise and knowledge in all these areas and leverage what's being done from a standards perspective, as well as what other people are doing in the industry. And we have a number of other Microsoft Gold certifications. And we help people not just with the solutions you're going to see here today. We really address all aspects, the people, process, and technology aspects of making these business agility transformations. All right, so with that, let's talk about the current trends that are driving why the need for this topic is even existing. So it's really about this age of digital transformation. I know this sometimes becomes cliche, but all organizations are going through it. I talk to businesses every day and every week that are traditional brick and mortar businesses that have become software companies at their core, and that their differentiators and their path forward is really a technological edge or technological difference or mobility solutions and other things like that. We've seen, the traditional brick and mortar, the department stores, or the Woolworths turn into the Amazons online, and the Blockbusters turn into Netflix and streaming services. Transportation and taxi cabs getting supplanted by rideshare apps, and the electric cars with all of the technology and software that's needed to run those things today. And this is just to name a few. And in some of these industries, the ones that didn't keep up and transform really were supplanted in the marketplace. And this brings about changes in all aspects of the organization, whether it be the executives who have to formulate these strategies and market approaches and offerings, the PMOs who have to drive the projects that actually fulfill on those strategies, and the software development folks that have to keep up with the pace of change, as well as the support organizations that have to support these technologies ongoing. It really impacts all aspects of our organizations. So change really is the new norm. In the old days, waterfall projects only that had multiple phases last a year or more, allow us to just kind of go on a steady as you go type of environment. That in the past, in the future, and in the current days, it's really more unpredictable business and more quickly changing things, and change is the new norm, and we have to be able to respond in order to survive. On top of that, the speed of business and the pace of change continues to accelerate. Where we used to be able to develop a product and have it out and have a market window of several years, that market window might now be 18 months or even less, depending on product lines or versions or releases and things that you might have to come up with in order to stay pace with your competition and the demands of the marketplace. So hence the rise of Agile. Version 1, formerly now Digital AI, does a State of Agile survey every year, and the 15th annual that was just done here in 2021. Kind of validates this. Even in 2019, the survey said that 97% of organizations surveyed were practicing Agile somewhere in their organization, and you can see that it actually increased from 2011 on up to where it was almost full participation in Agile somewhere. That doesn't mean everyone was doing it, but if you look at the bottom, continuing to increase adoption within organizations, the actual adoption within organizations, how much of that organization is using Agile, surveyed was from 37% in 2020, jumped to 86% in 2021. Now, some of that was driven by remote workforce and the pandemic, but it was trending in that way in either regard. And the broader adoption of Agile is not just software development, whether it be new product development, whether it be IT, whether it be marketing and other parts of the business. We find it's going mainstream, and it's not just within software development any longer. And people are adopting these to enhance the ability to manage change and changing priorities, be able to accelerate delivery, be able to increase team productivity, et cetera. And these other areas that are non-traditional Agile shops are doing this to reap those benefits and move down that path. So the increased adoption breeds the need to scale. As more and more people are doing this, PMOs and organizations now have to harness and be able to get a handle on those investments that they're making across all of these Agile efforts. Now, the Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFe as it's commonly called, is the most prevalent one that people are doing, either SAFe or some variation or some cherry-picked version of that. But scaling is something that has to happen now in organizations in order to make that happen well. The problem is that doing that across an entire organization and changing the mindset from leadership on down through the teams and back on up requires time. And Agile transformations can take many years in order to do that fully. Or going to more lean enterprise approaches that support these SAFe aspects are also long-term initiatives, and sometimes we don't get there right away. So what do we do in the meantime? Well, there's challenges. The challenges there, as far as why Agile adoption doesn't get permeated throughout the entire organization more fully, is, if you look in the lower right, inconsistencies in processes and practices, cultural clashes as far as, the mindsets that people have on whether or not to do Agile, or the way they prefer to run the business, general organizational resistance to change or human resistance to change, the lack of skills or experience in Agile approaches, or absence of leadership participation, because oftentimes the teams are fully bought in, but leadership is still looking at traditional ways of managing the business. And that can lead to inadequate management support. So there are reasons why this doesn't just happen quickly overnight, because it involves people, mindset, and culture changes. But that's not all that bad. The Project Management Institute, in a publication that they put out, said that a blend of approaches can enable organizational agility. That, techniques such as Scrum and DevOps are not the only or even the best indicator of an organization's speed or flexibility. That most organizations are more likely to use several different project management approaches, different Agile or iterative approaches, lean approaches, waterfall, extreme programming, just to name a few. And that's okay, especially if the work that you're doing with those approaches are more conducive to using those types of approaches. So in that regard, we find people are on an Agile transformation journey, and what we call the shift to the left oftentimes. Now, if you look on the right, where you have more traditional project and portfolio management, more waterfallish, that Agile transformation, if people have a vision to want to get there all the way over to the left here to full Agile portfolio management and Agile execution, they're not going to get there right away. They're going to have some transition on that journey of that multi-year process. And in the middle is this adaptive or hybrid portfolio management. You're going to hear those terms used interchangeably. And the idea there is that you're either going to be there in a transitionary state until you get all the way fully Agile, if you can get there. And by the way, many organizations don't, or do they intend to? And many, the adaptive or hybrid state will be their permanent state, because they have acknowledged for themselves that they will always have a blend of more waterfall, some Agile, and maybe some hybrids between those two within individual projects. And the key there is it's okay to be on anywhere on the spectrum. That also leads to a proliferation of tools across the organization, meaning with cloud tools readily available today, people are ending up using, depending on the department or the functional area of the organization and the discipline down the left-hand side, you can see that this is just a picture from one organization we worked with of all the different tool sets that are being used to manage project and portfolios. So what does this lead to? Silos, disconnected systems and processes, disconnected data, parallel processes, multiple entry points of data for resources that basically is frustrating at best. And the departmental silos, sometimes it's confusing as far as what the priorities are when you're working on these things. To have these things in disparate systems that don't really work together well can be frustrating. So today's challenges is in this digital transformation age, leaders realize they need to innovate more, manage uncertainty better, and establish more agility. Leadership knows they have to run the business still, and hitting performance goals in the traditional business things that investors and stockholders and shareholders expect. And we have varying cultures and approaches and attitudes in that organization. So hybrid and adaptive capabilities and skills are becoming more and more crucial in organizations. Ultimately, we can't afford the result of not addressing this, whether it be low response times for our customers, confused and unhappy employees. That can lead to high turnover, can lead to no support and ineffective ways of working and lost productivity. And in this competitive age, we really can't afford these byproducts or these results of not addressing those problems that we've been talking about here today. And the PMOs must address this in PPM solutions. Now, traditional, in the lighter faces of those blocks on the right, those are some of the more traditional things that PPM and PMOs have been dealing with, but we have to factor in more agility in these darker shades, more overall work management, just not project management, integration of all these different tool sets and data sources, complex tools that have really AI and other things built into them that we have to have a simplicity from a user experience perspective and automation across all this so we can become our most effective. So these are some things to consider as well. So let's start by talking about what's required for a hybrid approach. Now, in a hybrid approach, it's like we said before, maybe we have some in this adaptive or hybrid role of some PPM and some Agile. That PPM is more of a linear approach. I liken that analogy to more of a marathon runner, steady as she goes. Phases, stage gates, waterfall plans that we're working with. And Agile is more non-linear and more iterative and, delivering in smaller chunks and be able to respond to change after each delivery or each sprint. And the analogy there is a sprinter as opposed to a marathon runner with shorter cycle times. But it's okay to manage two separate yet coherent modes of delivery. There's a time and place for each of these. One is focused more on stability and the other one's focused more on agility. Now, if we have different camps within our organizations, there can be disconnected perspectives. To the PPM, sometimes the Agile folks that are using their Agile tools on a team basis, sometimes there's not the same level of visibility as there is with the traditional PPM tools that they've had in the PMOs. They may not have visibility. They may not be able to easily manage a holistic portfolio for leadership without a lot of manual gymnastics of data. And then how do they apply CapEx and OpEx to Agile projects? And these are just some of the things they grapple with. And then to the Agile teams, sometimes PPM to them seems like overhead. We're trying to become Agile for a reason. How can I deliver with continuous builds quickly with PPM and the processes around that and the disciplines? Why do I have to track CapEx and OpEx? And if so, how do I do it? And in the end, I may have to have duplicate entry of status or timesheets in order to satisfy the needs of the organization while I'm still working over here in an Agile tool set and an Agile methodology and framework. So this is just to name a few of the disconnects. So we have to find the right balance in our organization between just enough governance so we can have the right visibility, insight, alignment, and some control by the organization, but still preserve and maintain the agility we need for innovation and time to market responsiveness and making sure that we're satisfying the needs of our customers. So we can have a new hybrid project management world where we have both traditional and Agile projects in the same portfolios and be able to satisfy the needs of leadership, whatever their mindset is across that Agile journey. Adaptive PPM is more than just disparate tools. We now have the concept of multiple portfolios in an organization. That can be project portfolios, program portfolios, IT service portfolios, product management portfolios, etc. And how do we bring this all together? So the idea here is to take the execution layer at the bottom here where we have the projects being executed, but up at the portfolio levels, be able to handle things like demand management, portfolio analytics, and what-if scenarios, resource capacity planning, the financials around these projects, time reporting if that's required for things like CapEx, and the business intelligence that goes all the way around that. So in this whole landscape, we talked about the Agile transformation journey. We're going to show you today how one plan has a role and can actually meet your needs within any of these modes, whether you're in a journey or whether you've reached the place you want to be, like in an adaptive mode, and be able to do those things in an ongoing fashion. So one plan really connects that strategy and portfolio levels down to our execution layers. This picture we have up here is really a Microsoft-centric one. We have waterfall tools like Project for the Web, which is a new offering from Microsoft, Project Professional, which we all know from the traditional Microsoft Project Desktop, as well as, say, Azure DevOps or potentially Jira, all folding into a common portfolio of information up at that level at the top. And the modules there might be traditional portfolio views that you'd have, but those portfolio views might be more Agile boards at the portfolio level for things like program increment planning, et cetera, or even roadmaps and things for our more product-oriented type of organizations. And be able to provide things like resource capacity planning, financial planning consistently in a method across all those projects, regardless of the methodology or framework, as well as being able to roll in the execution data from the variety of tools that you might be using within your organization. On top of that, people may have to provide status on things like a My Workplace, where your users can actually give status back to the project managers or the scrum masters, or even do a timesheet, or even have a home page where they can get the aggregate view of everything that's on their plate. On top of that, strategies become important. A lot of organizations are really focusing on strategic execution and alignment of strategy. And what we're going to show you today may or may not go into this in detail, but be aware that strategy execution, objectives and key results, or OKRs, can be executed on and tracked as far as how we're accomplishing those in the organization. And then down below, we can actually align our projects and our initiatives to these particular strategies or key results. And this is all done because OnePlan provides an integration platform to allow you, whether it be the Agile software development tools, your financial, ERP, or HR tools, as I mentioned, all the work management tools, your service management tools, CRM or professional services, etc. Other ideation tools, maybe where you're collecting requests and ideas. These can all be folded in to come together on an automated fashion without you having to duplicate effort or manually mash it up. So one use case, a hybrid PPM solution might have traditional Microsoft project and Azure DevOps rolling up into an overall OnePlan portfolio, where all the traditional program and portfolio management aspects are managed. Investment approval and intake, tracking financials and resource capacity planning can all happen at that level independently of what method is being used down below for execution. Same thing can hold true for, saying, using waterfall tools like Project and Jira. Those are some of our more popular hybrid approaches that we're seeing. But actually, we have shops that have both Jira and Azure DevOps and rolling that into the mix as well. Now, to do that, we have to consolidate and translate this data. In this case, down below, we have my different tools being used. We have different iterative methodologies and waterfall approaches being used in these different initiatives or projects. But then leadership needs to roll this stuff up and see a whole portfolio maybe grouped into programs or strategies or into portfolios. And the idea there is these tool sets that we're going to show you today enable this and allow you to structure this in a way that works ongoing. Now, leadership at top has more interest in that, and they may have their own language and their own metrics that they want to have. And the teams below may have metrics for their things that they're doing in either Agile or waterfall approaches that appropriate them for execution. And how do we merge and blend those things to coexist and actually support one another? Now, that's hybrid. Now, be aware that everything we're going to show you today can be used in an Agile PPM fashion if you've gone fully to the left. And in that mode, you might have all Agile projects down below with multiple tool sets. And up above, you might have leadership with their traditional, just like before, metrics that they want to see and rolling up from those Agile projects. So you may have a little bit of apples and oranges, but that translation can happen with these tool sets and these connectors that we've talked about. And even the language is different. Like down below, Agile teams are using burn-ups and burn-downs, velocity, cumulative flow diagrams, WSJF, et cetera. And up above, business language of leadership, if they haven't transformed to an Agile mindset, might be things like ROI and NPV and IRR, earned value, milestones, et cetera. So these can be brought together with the help of OnePlan. Now, scaled Agile frameworks like we talked about, and SAFe 5.1 is out there, and the different layers that have to be brought into bear and the associations to the work elements that have to happen to your backlogs and your projects and your initiatives, those can be accommodated here as well. And if there is a full transformation, an Agile mindset has been accomplished by leadership and the teams, now you can start building structures in OnePlan if you want to actually have this stuff, to have it roll up into programs and Agile release trains and associated with value streams and strategic teams, et cetera. So all of this can be accomplished depending on where you're at in the organization. Now, also, the Agile PPM solution can be fully Agile in OnePlan. So if you have nothing but Agile tools being used at the bottom, and you're looking at the portfolio, and that method you might want to use be more of a portfolio board so that you can do things like program increment planning and other aspects of that from a more Agile kind of metaphor or approach, this is fully supported in OnePlan as well. So one plan is available to you for both hybrid and or Agile PPM. And I'd like to have Paul take over now and show you how that can be accomplished within one plan and give you some ideas and some food for thought.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'm actually going to start where Jim ended. So I'm going to start with an Agile environment first. Spend a bit of time here. I won't go into this in a ton of depth, but I want you to see some core capabilities and functionality here. And then I'm going to shift over more to the adaptive or hybrid scenario and spend a bit more time there and show some things that I think are crucial for our customers and some functionality that they really appreciate. So I'm logged into one of our Agile demo environments, and you can see the various items down the left. I'm going to spend a bit of time on those. I'm in a portfolio view, and you can see that we have epics, and underneath that we have some features, and I can organize this. The structure can be as you need it to be. Up top, you'll notice that we're looking at some different portfolios that we've chosen. We are zoomed in on two specific program increments, P15 and P16, or PI, sorry, 5 and 6. We've got 3 different release trains on, and we got 4 different teams in play. So I'm looking at this very quickly. First, obviously, the sort of standard list view, and you can see we've got stuff that's some is in the backlog, some's in the funnel, some we're reviewing and analyzing. So we're looking at these different items and starting to plan out how we want to execute. But I can also jump to the board view, as Jim mentioned a minute ago about program increment planning. This is literally how we plan our own product development ourselves. So if I want to look at PI planning by feature, I could quickly see where we are in each program increment and which sprint and where these features are landing, and I could make decisions that say I want to move a feature to a different sprint, and then maybe I'll just move it back so we don't screw up the demo. So I could see these different things and lay them out and start to bring more in. If I had stuff still in my backlog, I could grab it here and drop it into the respective sprint as I do my planning. Likewise, I could still view this on a roadmap as well. And I could look at by department, where do these items fit? These are sort of the programs that I want to deliver. And then underneath that, all the other information. Additionally here, I can come in here and actually define my program increments. So again, we're looking at PI 5 and 6, and you can see the different sprints, when they occur, budget we have for each of them. We haven't put any data into these just yet, but I can start to add additional sprints. I can add a new PI, and underneath that, the requisite sprints, and continue to plan this out. So this is the pure Agile scenario where we are intaking feature requests or ideas, and we're categorizing those, we're analyzing them, and we're slotting them into the respective program increment and sprint that we want to execute them on, and which team's going to handle them, and so forth. And then we're mapping and planning all that out. Pure Agile play here. Now let's jump over to a different environment just quickly. Let me go here. This is my adaptive environment that I am looking at here. And I'm going to jump into my portfolio. And I want to highlight a couple of things. In here, you can see we've got programs, portfolios, programs, and then projects, but you'll also see the word epic. So melded into this world from the top, and Jim talked about this in one of his slides, from a management perspective, it has sort of that traditional program and portfolio structure, but where the execution occurs, we're actually delivering using multiple methodologies. Some of these are being done using an agile methodology and agile tooling, and I'll talk more about that in a second. And others are being done more in the conventional waterfall or project method. And frankly, inside some of those, they're a bit of both. And so as you look down that left side of this screen, you'll see, we've got a project here. And if I expand this out, you'll see that this one, it's got a team site, it's got a project professional schedule, but also has some components of it are attached to something in DevOps. So this project is a bit of all of that. This next project, again, is a blend of the two. This one here is only in Teams. Another one here that's project for the web. This project's being managed in Jira, and it's in fact called an epic. And so built into this hybrid scenario, inside that first program are projects that are being done as in an agile methodology using agile tools, and others that are being done using project and the more conventional tools, and some, frankly, that have elements of both. So we are bringing all that information together because that's how our clients work, that's how you're working, that's how organizations are trying to go. Not everyone can get to the agile demo I just showed. Many sort of stop somewhere here in the middle and say, yes, we have some of this, but we have some of that. And we need to be able to talk about it collectively. Now, I want to dive into this a little bit deeper. I'm going to play on this cleverly named project called the work plan. And I want to highlight a few things. So there's some detailed information that we're going to capture here. We've got some information about this. What objective does it align to? What associated key result, which is that strategy component that Jim mentioned in one of his slides, and what program and portfolio it's in, and all the rest of it. But now I want to dive into this a little deeper. Is the idea that I can capture budget, I could track actuals here, and capture finances. I don't care what delivery method you're using or what tools you might be using to manage the execution of this particular project or epic. But when it comes to budget and finances, I want to be able to talk about that in a common way. So every project has this capability here to capture this information regardless of how you're choosing to execute. Likewise, and Jim mentioned this in one of his slides as well, the idea of resources is, where do I need people? I'm not interested in which sprint they're in or what tasks they're on, but the level of commitment that I need, and what does that do to other commitments they might have. You can see we have a massive overage here on that particular role. We'll need to resolve that. But what I'm trying to capture here, whether you're using Project for the Web or Planner, which doesn't do time phase data, or Project itself, which does, or DevOps, or Jira, any of those tools or others, I need to understand what the level of resource commitment is, whether it's generic resources, and you can see some of them there like business analyst and developer, or whether it's named individuals that have been assigned to this project, or we're requesting them to be on this project. So lots of flexibility there that allows management to make the decisions it needs to make, armed with the information that it needs, while still allowing the project teams or the sprint teams or agile teams to execute as they see fit and based on what they're trying to accomplish. Now we'll jump to the work plan, and I want to show a few key features here that we've added into our work plan. I'm going to blow this out so we can see it all. Here's a bunch of tasks. I could be linking this to another project schedule, but as I scroll down through these, you'll see embedded in this schedule list are backlog items, and if you look closely, an issue. So we've brought all of that differing types of information and things that need to get done into a singular view. So if I had risks or change requests or other items, they could and would appear here as well. So in a singular view is my backlog items as well as my tasks, laid out sort of where they belong in the overall structure of this initiative. I think that's important to see. If I jump over to the backlog, so focusing on the items being done in an agile format, let me pull this up. I'm just going to move this out of the way for a second. And what I'd like to look at, let me expand that just for the fun of it. So we have tasks and user stories. If I come in here and I show my sprints, and I'm going to show some of the past sprints, we can actually plan out our sprints and drop these items into the respective sprint. And you can see we're looking at how many story points we were trying to complete in that sprint and how many hours were overbooked on that particular one. But as we go through each of these, we were layering in information, and now we could start to set up the next sprint and the next one and the next one. So we have that ability to support that sprint level planning here embedded within the overall work plan. What we can also show, jump back to schedule here for just a second. Another item that people often ask for, I'm going to turn off sprints, but I'm going to turn on activities. And you can see here on this particular task, which if I expand my task, I'll find that one. This one here, Deployment Project Scope. There are activities underneath the task. This is a common thing. We get asked for this a lot with customers. You see it a lot in RFPs and other proposal documents. This idea that I want to be able to articulate some tasks, some activities, little things that need to get done that are sort of beneath the structure of the task. We don't want to articulate these down into a detailed schedule, yet we want to track them, assign them to people, and provide that work. So we have that layered in here as well. So I have that visibility to my activities along with the other pieces of this project, whether they're backlog items, issues, risks, and so forth, and where they fit with the overall schedule and the tasks we're trying to complete. I'm going to take this demo in one last little place, and I want to be able to sort of bring this all home, I hope, is now I'm clicked on my work. So this is my work for me as Daniel Williams logged in. And I might be working on some Agile projects, part of an Agile team. I might have some tasks on a project. I might have issues and risks that I'm working on in different items. All of it can appear here on this singular view. So you see here, I have backlog items. I don't have any. I do have a task right there. So I have tasks to complete. I have a change request I need to update. I have some risks and issues. That issue actually itself has activities underneath it as well. So all in a singular view, all of the stuff that I need to be working on, regardless of whether it's an agile methodology being followed or a more conventional waterfall, or some of both, even within that project, I can now update all of this information in a singular view and engage those different audiences and provide them the information they need, which leads to the reporting and the analytics and the status reports and all the rest of it on up. I'm showing this in my work. The same thing could be done in a timesheet if you require that, where you can actually charge time to an issue or a risk in addition to your tasks or backlog items that you might be working on. Fairly quick demo, but what I wanted to highlight was, yes, we can configure one plan as we started in a very pure agile model and follow all of the safe criteria and the safe structure and methodology. But what we can also do is meet people where they are, where they need to provide both waterfall and agile methodologies and work within those two parameters, yet give the resource at the end of the day a singular view to update and status what they're being assigned to and make sure they're getting stuff done, and give the project teams the ability to provide common information around budgets and resource requirements while executing the project in the manner they see fit. And with that, Jim, I will turn it back to you.
Thanks, Paul. Let me take a second here to grab back the screen.
Sure.
And can you see me?
I can.
All right, well, let's summarize a little bit and talk about some potential next steps you can take. All right. So in summary, the rise of technology and digital transformation is breeding more software and new product development and the needs for more agile approaches. And those are increasing within organizations. Organizations are using a variety of tools and solutions to plan and manage these types of projects. And PMOs are now challenged to provide oversight and reporting across silos of information and all these various tool sets. One plan provides a vehicle and a great platform for all PPM capabilities, like Paul was showing you at the portfolio level, yet bringing in together seamless connection to the execution tools that are being used, whether they're waterfall or agile. And that's tools you may be using today or things that can be done, as he showed you, within one plan itself. And one plan provides the additional top-down planning and capabilities for things like resource capacity, financial planning, portfolio planning, and what ifs, and even intake on project requests and ideation. The idea is to provide a consistent approach to all those things, regardless of what methodology or tool set's being used down at the execution levels. So the combined nature of all this gets us out of the business of doing these manual data mashups and being able to then having to transform those mashed up data elements into usable things that people are doing manually in PowerPoints and other things today. Now, the value of hybrid PPM, it keeps users working in their primary tools and solutions. We don't have to rip those out of their hands in order to get commonality at the portfolio level. Allows users to work in tools that are appropriate for their role and maturity or type of work that they have, and accommodates a variety of methodologies and tools. And it really minimizes complexity and duplication of effort. And when you remove these frustrating aspects, you get a better user experience, and in our experience, it drives better participation and better data and compliance and complete data because people are actually working in the tool sets and integrating these things to bring these all into a key view. And as important, teams continue to be agile or whatever method they use, but leadership will still get the visibility and the metrics that they require in order to run the overall business. Now, we do these webinars on a weekly basis, mostly. And we have another one next week. It's called Driving Digital Transformation Through the Agile PMO. And we're excited to bring you that topic as well. You can go to oneplan.ai/webinars and sign up for that if you haven't already. And also, if you want to try some of the adaptive things that you saw today from Paul, you can go up to Microsoft's App Source and download a free trial, or actually access a free trial. It's a cloud-based solution, and then be able to work with these things and kind of see how it works for yourself and get hands-on with it. We also have, if you go up to App Source, a pure Agile portfolio management configuration if you're interested in that pure Agile, as well as things just for strategic portfolio management and or professional services automation as well. Now, we're happy to help you and complimentary offer you a free roadmap workshop if you want us to kind of take a look at what your current use of tools and solutions are, assess what your current requirements are and your desired future state, and then give you an idea what it would take to get there and what that might cost or what the effort might be in order to get those things done. We're happy to kind of give you that initial assessment and engage with you to do that complimentary. So you can either try a trial, try this roadmap workshop, or if you're not that far down the road yet and you still want to learn more, we're happy to schedule a personalized one-on-one demo with you to address maybe your specific use cases or challenges. You can reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai. So with that, I'd like to thank you again for spending some of your valuable time in your day with us. OnePlan is invested in success, and by that we mean in your success. Reach out to us at the general contact line if you want, or if you want to reach out to Paul or I directly, our information or emails are down there. You will be getting a copy of these slides. You will be getting a link to the recording probably in the next 24 hours. So we would love to engage with you, and we're really pleased that you spent some time with us today. Have a great day.